So you know the feeling, you discover a brilliant album, you fall in love with it, and then you realise the only way that you can own it on vinyl is to spend hundreds on a worn out first pressing, and that's if you can even find one of them. So some of these records that I'm going to cover today, they've never been reissued. Others, they got rushed, or they got poor quality reissues, and a few of them, they've just completely vanished ever since they first came out. So today on the Vinyl Narrative, I'm going to be sharing 8 albums that, in my opinion, are absolutely crying out for a repress or a reissue. Some of these I already have on my shelf in less than perfect condition. Others, they're sitting right at the top of my want list. So let's get into these 8 rare albums. Okay, we're starting with an absolute monster of a record for the first one on my list. This is Beck's Midnight Vultures. Now, this was released on vinyl and on CD and cassette back in 1999. It's never actually been reissued since that release. So there are some unofficial bootlegs, which I'll talk about a bit later, but it's just crazy that this is one of Beck's best albums. It's like him at his most freaky and funky, and it's never been reissued. That's just crazy to me. I love this album because it's almost like Beck is channeling Prince. He's got that kind of falsetto style that Prince was famous for, and he's just got a great groove all across the tracks on the album. The bootlegs, there's a few of them out there, but we've never actually had a proper official reissue. So I'm kind of waiting on that rather than picking up a bootleg, because I want to have the official copy rather than an unofficial one. But yeah, apparently we were meant to get this last year. Well, there was rumours of it. There was a few listings on some German vinyl websites of a reissue. So I'm hoping that it is indeed in the works and we are just waiting for the label to drop it. So hopefully we'll all have this fantastic album in our hands for an affordable price that isn't £300 and above in the very near future. So there we go. Number 1 is Beck's Midnight Vultures. Okay, in at number 2 we have A Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders. Now this was originally released back in 1993 on the Hit label as a 2 LP set back in 1993, and yeah, this one you can get your hands on it. You're probably going to be paying about £150 and up for one in reasonable condition. I have no idea what the kind of like VG Plus to excellent and near mint costs these days, but yeah, you're parting with some pretty penny. And it has, this is one of the ones that have actually been reissued, and I can show you one of those reissues today. So this is my copy. It's pressed on 1 LP, so that's the kind of difference here, in that actually since 1993 they've never actually repressed it on 2 LPs. So I'll be honest, this version is okay. The mastering's a bit flat. The vinyl's not exactly fantastic. It's just not doing this fantastic album great justice. I think we either need a repress from the original plates that were back from 1993, or a remaster and a reissue from the original tapes. And I suspect that is the reason why we've not had one. Either those tapes are now lost, or they've degraded so much that it's quite hard to do so without kind of digital wizardry, or potentially Q-Tip or someone in the group is just sitting on those tapes and will not sign off on a reissue, which would be really sad. But part of me just really hopes that like Q-Tip is waiting for a big anniversary, and gets it reissued with like maybe a nice box set or something, a nice expanded edition, because this is one of their best albums in their discography. It's fantastic. It's not the Low End Theory, but I think it's probably my second favourite from the group. So yeah, number 2 on my list is A Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders. Next up we have a UK indie from the early 2000s. It's The Rakes with Capture Release, and this was released back in 2005. It's never been pressed since, but I do have a copy of it. So it's pressed once in the UK. Past Me, I'm very grateful to Past Me, because I had the kind of foresight to pick this up in the kind of the late 2000s, when it was kind of like going for around £50 or £60. I think I may have paid 50. But now, like a good plus and VG minus copy is like £175. So it's not exactly cheap, and they're incredibly rare. I rarely ever see these come up for sale. So, you know, it's never been reissued. My copy is a bit battered. As you can see, the cover's kind of coming apart there, and the spine's got loads of foxing, so you can barely make out what record this is anymore. And it's been heavily played. So I really love a great reissue of this album. It's just a post-punk revival gem, very similar to like Block Party's sound from the early 2000s, and I think this just holds up. It's a really succinct 10-track album, totally deserves a reissue. It is the 20th anniversary this year as well, so I do wonder if that is in the works. I know members of the band from some certain podcasts they've been on are interested in reissuing it, but I suspect, again, it all comes down to the label and maybe kind of commercial discussions there. Sadly, I think V2 Records, who this was released on, I don't think they're still active, so I imagine it's with the major label parent company for them to decide whether or not they want to reissue this. So I really hope they do, because it'd be great to get it in everyone's hands. I'd love to just have a really nice playable copy as well, because this is full of snap, crackle and pop, to be honest, and I'd like to hear it as it's intended. So there we go, the Rakes Capture Release. Okay, sticking with that kind of UK indie theme, we've got the Grammatics, their debut self-titled album. Now that was released back in 2009, and again, it was only ever pressed once, and only 1,000 were pressed apparently. I'm not sure how true that is, but it's probably true, because I never see this album come up for sale, sadly. When it has sold, you're looking at about £100-ish for a VG copy, according to Discogs, but yeah, never been reissued, and it's just, I think, a truly underrated album from that era. It's kind of sweeping and orchestral, like emo, with a touch of like art rock and indie sound. I think just way ahead of its time, and for me, I think it's a cult classic. I love it. 2009 is way too long of a gap for when this record could be on vinyl, so I really hope a repress or a reissue is in the works, because I'd love to hear it, and I don't want to have to shell out a load of money to do so on vinyl. So yeah, the Grammatics self-titled album, love to see it be reissued in the near future. Next up, we're still sticking with the UK, and this time it's an absolute mega band from the UK, so it's really surprising that this album hasn't been reissued that many times. It's New Order's Waiting for the Siren's Call. That was originally released back in 2005. It's a bit of a theme here, in that 2005 seems to have a lot of cracking albums that just don't have that much love on the vinyl format. But yeah, released in 2005. It has been reissued. I think it's been reissued twice since it was released, but they must have been pressed in really low numbers, because they're incredibly hard to find now for kind of below 100 to kind of 80 to £100 mark. And I think the last time it was reissued was back in 2015 by Reissue Records, which are a subsidiary of the Warner label. So it's now out of print yet again. And okay, it's not the most iconic New Order release, it's not like Power, Corruption, Lies or Movement or anything like that. But, I think it's got some cracking singles on it. Crafty's just a banger, and, the album's definitely got its moments. And I think the Repress sold out really quick, because as soon as it was announced, I kind of went out to buy it and couldn't find it online or in person anywhere. And the prices just will keep creeping up, because they've not got any plans to reissue. So this one needs to return, in my opinion. So hopefully New Order and Reissue can do it again and get this repressed and make it sound really nice. Maybe a complete remastering would not be the worst thing in the world for this record. So yeah, hopefully we'll see New Order's Waiting for the Siren's Call very, very soon. Still sticking with UK indie for the next two records. You can tell I'm a big fan of that genre, but I'm going to cover these two albums. So we have Hot Chips, The Warning. Now this was released back in 2006, Despite it having a few variants in that year, it's never actually been repressed or reissued since 2006. So prices of this, again, they go quite sky high. You're looking at about £100 for a reasonable copy. And I think, this one's just an electronic pop music stunner. For lack of a better word, it's kind of warm, it's clever, it's emotional. It's great dance music. It was Mercury Prize nominated as well, and it just sounds really fresh. I listened to it today and it sounds fantastic still. Baffling to me that this has not had a reissue or even just a repress from the original files. We need to have this in our lives. Even if they do the original version, which came with a special bonus 7-inch, that would be really nice. It's an anniversary of 20 years next year, so I'm hoping we get it. We had Coming On Stronger last year, which they titled Coming On Strongerer, which is quite a nice little playful title. So I think 2026 might be the year we see this get reissued. But yeah, let's see it. Let's hope that it happens. Okay, the last indie record they're going to cover on this list is the Sunshine Underground's Raise the Alarm. Now, this again was pressed in 2006. It's never been repressed or reissued since. I think it was, again, pressed in really small numbers because this was just at a time in early 2000s where vinyl wasn't really the format that labels were pushing their money into in terms of releasing music. So really low pressing numbers, unfortunately, which means a lot of these records from this era go for sky high money, and this one certainly does. You're looking at about £250 to get up a reasonable copy if you can find it on sale. I think there's one for sale on Discogs at the moment, but yeah, I'm probably not going to buy it at that price, but it does remain in my want list. So I really hope that I do find a reasonably priced first pressing one day. But yeah, never been reissued, never been repressed, which is crazy because this was a big album, part of that kind of dance punk scene in the UK in the early 2000s. It's like angular guitars, it's really driving bass lines and just really great shouty dance punk. That's also quite melodic as well, and it sticks in your head a lot. So it's kind of like the Klaxons meets the Rapture, I'd say. It's really good. This pressing's super rare, so it needs a comeback. And again, hopefully next year is the year we get that all-important reissue or repress. So yeah, the Sunshine Underground's Raise the Alarm. Okay, last but not least, and I've saved a really big one for last, because late last year, I was going for a bit of a kind of dance music and French touch vibe for a little while, and one album that I absolutely adore, I loved it ever since it came out. I've got the CD somewhere upstairs in my loft, but it's Mojo's self-titled album. So that was pressed back in 2001, never ever been reissued since, one pressing. And the median of this on Discogs is around £300, and that's even for just a VG minus copy. So yeah, I'm not going to pay that money, even though I adore this record. I can't really justify spending that much money on it. It's just mad how this hasn't been reissued. It's just an absolute classic French house record. The lead single, Lady, Hear Me Tonight, that was everywhere in the early 2000s, just you couldn't really avoid it. Not that you'd want to, it's a fantastic song, but I think the rest of the album's just as strong. And it's just, wild to me that this has never been reissued, considering how big of an album this was and how big of an impact that particular single had on kind of dance music as well. And it kind of rode in with kind of the Daft Punk sound and started to really push out bands, from that kind of Ed Banger Records. They fit nicely in with that sound as well, and Cassius, Justice and things like that. So yeah, Mojo's self-titled album, we need to get that reissued. I bet it would sound fantastic on vinyl. It would be an essential record to have. I'm probably just not going to pay £300 and up to get it. So yeah, please reissue that record. So that's my personal list of reissues that we desperately need on vinyl. Now I know there's always licensing issues or master tape dramas or kind of label business that will get in the way of a reissue, but all of these albums deserve a kind of second chance on vinyl. And it's all about the music, right? It's all about the music. So let's get it out there for the people to enjoy. You know, I'm all for crate digging and discovering those kind of original first pressings. That's my preferred way to collect vinyl. But sometimes, you know, you just want that nice clean copy that sounds great and it doesn't cost half your monthly bills. And that's always good as well. So now it's your turn. I want to hear, you know, which albums do you want to see reissued or repressed on vinyl? Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you're into rare pressings and kind of underappreciated albums and vinyl reissues, please give a subscribe to the Vinyl Narrative. There's going to be loads more content coming like this. So yeah, please subscribe and thank you very much for watching.